I'm Scott Allen Miller. It's the 29th of August, 2022. It's Monday. And today I'm filming starting from the 8th Avenue Bridge on the southwest side of León, Nicaragua. So this is really far south. When you come out to 8th Avenue, the bridge is quite a ways south. And while about 6 months ago I did do an episode from this area, I have not filmed to the south of the bridge ever. And I'm not sure how much of even the bridge I've ever shown. So this is a shanty neighborhood that is a plantain plantation behind me. And I'm going to be heading into a zone I really don't know very well. This is, I believe, classified as South Sutiava, but I don't actually know. There's surprisingly a bit of traffic out here, actually. I think I said actually twice, with a number of cars coming by, like just non-stop, even though this is really far out from the city center. And I really don't know what's out here. I don't know what kind of community we're going to walk into. So this is a little bit of an adventure for all of us together. And of course, I'm getting honked at. Why are they honking at me? Like I'm going to walk out into the road and get hit? Not very likely, I don't think, especially considering there is a car and a tricycle sitting in front of me. Like, what are they gonna do, run me over and then run those things over? That doesn't make any sense. All right. Today is a work day. We didn't have very much news to report. So, I mean, there's like nothing to talk about today. I mean, this evening, Liesl and I continued to watch some of Arrested Development. We have finished the 4th season of Arrested Development, which is the really complex one. That's the first one that's like, I don't know, 7 years, 12 years later than the original, because they started in 2003, which is hard to believe that Dominic and I were watching Arrested Development when we first got married, and they didn't finish it until 2019. That show just went on forever. And, you know, really, if they waited another 10 years and then came back and started making more episodes, it would not be all that weird in many ways. But so the 4th season is the first one under Netflix, and they do a really complicated timeline. And Liesl's like, I have no idea, because the entire season takes place on a single day and just goes through the perspectives of different people throughout the day and in different episodes. So it's really hard to figure out what's going on, and they build a little bit on each episode. It's really well done. It's extremely good storytelling for a sitcom, but it's also really hard to follow. So we're through that. We have 1 season left to go. Liesl really likes the show. And that was pretty much the only thing we did today. Now, just watched someone walk directly out. You'll see the truck that's coming. He's going to pass me here in a second. I watched someone just walk right out in front of him. Didn't look at all. Walked. I've seen dogs get hit. This was a person almost just got obliterated in the road in front of me. And no reason. Plenty of open space on the road. And I don't know why they would step out in front of it. And there's so much traffic. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So, and there's a dog almost getting hit. Why? Why? Get out of the road, everybody. It makes no sense. As I walk down the road, but I'm not in the middle. You can easily go around me. It's a very different neighborhood up here. I was not prepared for what it looks like in any way. I'm pretty far south. I don't know how far south this road goes. This is one of the big ones heading to the very, very south side of the city. Hola, buenas tardes. Not a lot of people filming out here, so kind of a novelty. So today I really wanted to talk about water supplies, because this is a big topic going on in the United States as well. And so it kind of becomes a perfect thing to discuss, because a lot of people, when we're looking at moving to Nicaragua or anywhere, one of the things that comes up a lot, especially for Americans, and naturally I'm from the US, so the same things come up for me. How is the water? Can you drink the water? And of course, being Americans, we're used to bordering Mexico, where water supplies are a major problem. So it's reasonable that we think the whole world may be that way. I'm going to swing the camera around some cool areas down here. And this is actually quite neat and interesting right here. Really nice house. All right. So in Mexico, you have a lot of places with problematic water supplies. You have non-potable water, you have parasites in the water, you have famously Montezuma's Revenge, which is of course parasites in the water, and problems like that. And so because that is so close to home, literally, for Americans, we have a tendency to think of the entire world as potentially having that problems, or at least countries south of the United States having those problems. And it's reasonable to think that there's something about the weather or the culture or the climate or something in the US and Canada that keeps us safe within North America, and that areas to the south of us, or at least in the tropical zones or something, may have additional problems that we do not. So that's reasonable from an unknowing scientific perspective. There's decent theories that one could put forward that would make it make sense. It does not require some American supremacy theory to come up with why it may be. That is a really interesting little store over there. That is a freestanding pulperia in this really interesting neighborhood. I want to know where I am. This is weird. I feel like I've been down, possibly actually down this road right here when going to the Citadel on the south side of town. But I really don't know. I never check the map when I'm down here, and I don't have a map with me, so I'm working completely off of just knowing where I am on a grid. So it's reasonable, right? But here's the reality. Mexico is the only country in the region that has these problems with its water. I don't know why that is, but they simply have an extreme water supply problem. And that is true all over Mexico. Friends who live in the Yucatan, very far from, say, a Mexico City or a Chihuahua, they have to take medicine because of the things in the water. They have to filter their water. They have to use bottled water whenever they're drinking. Like it's an extreme issue. And it's real, right? Even people who live there, we often say, well, with Montezuma's revenge, we have this, by the way, this is one of the public transportation trucks that goes through town. I don't normally get to show them very well, and this one kind of worked out really well that you can see it. It's just this little, basically a little bit bigger than a pickup truck. They just drive around, they're covered, and they're super cheap, like 15 cents. You can go all over town with them, and sometimes they're packed, sometimes they're empty, and very convenient, but they're hard to figure out how to use. You really gotta pay a lot of attention and figure them out. This is a really colorful little smoke shack over here. And it's extremely real that you don't get used to the water in Mexico. If you live there, you still have to deal with these problems and take the medicine and be aware of those problems. But in Guatemala or Nicaragua or Panama or any of these countries down here, we have universally potable water. It's just absolutely fine everywhere you go, whether it's city water or well water. You have the regular well water issues. You got to do whatever you would have to do in the United States, but no different. This cute little dog drinking water right as we speak. And so the one thing you do have to be aware that is very different is some places, especially Nicaragua, are extremely old in some areas. So a Granada or a Leon as a city is, in reality, these are places that have been standing cities for more than 100 years before the first European colonies ever came to what became the United States. These are ancient zones compared to what Americans are used to. And that is important for a number of reasons. The primary one being they are colonial centers, and often promoting and maintaining a colonial heritage is really important in these areas. It's things that are taken very seriously, and that means that changing the roads and the the roads and the pipes and the houses and the structures is very difficult and often not allowed. Buenas tardes. And so because of that, so this road basically comes to an end, by the way. This is what I would consider the end of 8th Avenue. So we're going to head down this way. So we are now heading southeast. Somehow it gets very quiet down here. The cars all seem to stop, but I don't know where they went in particular. And this is a cute little doggy. So because of that, you can find, especially in these older cities, some lead pipes, and that is something you have to be aware of. So it's not something particularly poisonous in the water, but it is toxic. And so that is a very large reason why a lot of people use bottled water in these areas. Not because boiling it would fix things. It would not. Lead cannot be fixed by boiling, but it can be through filtration, but filtration tends to be expensive. But it's only the colonial cities with any real problem with that. Places where the pipes predate knowledge of lead, and they've been there for a long time, and they can't rip them up and replace them. Places like Managua do not have that problem. The mountainous cities, they don't have those problems because they're younger cities. So that's really a colonial problem that the United States would have too if the United States maintained cities that were this old. It just doesn't, and so it doesn't have these problems. Buenas tardes. So that's the one time that you need to be aware that there's a water issue. Now, in general, water in Nicaragua has been very good. The one thing that we do have problems with all over the place, especially in these older cities, is water pressure. And this is something that is easy to deal with. I've talked about this a number of times on the channel. A lot of us have, just about everybody has some form of water tank. There's some amount of knowledge of what times a day you have lots of pressure and what times you do not. And that's about it. It's really not this huge deal. It's not a big problem. You simply learn to live around it. It is true that in the United States, we almost universally have high pressure water all the time, no questions asked, never falters in any way. And that is an awfully nice thing to have. Absolutely something I miss for sure. But it's not the big deal that it seems like. When you first move, of course, you're going to be caught off guard. You don't understand buenas tardes, when water is going to be available or not available, what's causing it, how to determine. There's some nice houses down here. So I walk along. This is in the area, and that's a new road going in. And so because of that, it may seem far worse to someone moving to Nicaragua than it would be to someone who lives here, simply because you can't predict it and you aren't sure how to work around it. But by having a tank, having a pump, suddenly things that are very difficult otherwise become very simple. And one of the reasons is that when you aren't from here and the water, seemingly goes out during the day or becomes very, very low pressure, you panic. You say, oh, I don't know if I can do anything. I don't know what I can do with the water. I don't know when it's coming back. And if you live here, oh, the pressure drops during the day. Almost always it still trickles in. So if you have a tank, it's going to keep filling. You can keep flushing toilets. You can even take showers. You can cook and do all those things. Don't waste the water because it's only going to fill so quickly, but it's not a big deal because it's going to keep coming. So yes, you flush all the toilets at once, your water level is going to go down. But you don't need to keep flushing them, right? It'll take a little while and the water will come back. Not a big deal. And so that mentality alone makes a huge difference. And of course, knowing to have a tank, knowing you probably want to have a pump to increase your pressure and so forth, make all the difference in the world. And of course, if you live here, you are prepared and have those things at the ready. You already have them deployed, and it's just part of the water system. So in general, as long as you understand how it works, it is easy to have a good, solid, always available water supply and not something that you have to worry about. Yes, it's different than the United States. Yes, it's a little bit unexpected. No, it is not as convenient as in the US, but it is not at all bad. It is really quite minor. And what an attractive little house. And this, probably a church. I don't really know. And that could be, I don't know, apartment building? I don't know. Some neat stuff down here. Not quite sure where I am. Gonna have to research this when I get back. So from a water perspective, Nicaragua represents a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things. And if you're in some place like Managua, I've never experienced any water pressure drops or other inconveniences, buenas tardes, whatsoever. Very, very easy. It's these smaller cities, and especially the colonial ones, where the nature of being in a colonial city, a place that is being maintained as a living museum, is going to have complications that other places are not going to have. And that is something that you have to accept, buenas tardes, in being in a place like that. I really don't know where I am, so I am checking this place out. But this, I feel like I came past this place recently in a taxi and I said, wow, it's a cute little corner store, but they did such a neat job with it. So I don't know where I am. We're exploring, but we are heading north. This is, given the distance that I walked, this is probably 6th. And this is a really cute little front yard that I would not expect to find buenas tardes out here. And yes, it is afternoon. It is about 3 o'clock. So you say buenas tardes. And when I was in school, I have to say, in high school in the United States, we were taught Spanish, and we were taught that buenas tardes is what you say in the afternoon, but we were also taught that nobody says it, which in reality is completely incorrect. Everybody says it. That is what people say. And the whole idea that no one says it is a myth. So this is a lot of really cute houses down in whatever neighborhood this is. I'm going to do my best to research this when I get back. And put up a label somewhere on this to tell you where I am if at all possible. Again, look at this I wouldn't say very modern, but like American 1960s, 1970s modern style, which is among my favorite styles of architecture and design. So it's one of the things that I really like about Central America is that while the designs don't tend to be super modern, they are generally a modern style that is my taste exactly. So it tends to work out really well for me. This is a big basketball court and little park here in this neighborhood. And look, these houses just continue. Sorry for swinging you guys around so much, but this is a consistently neat little neighborhood, very far from the city center, with all these very, very practical, I want to say, while really neat houses along here. This is just blowing my mind. I'm not familiar with this area in any way. I did for sure come through here with a taxi not too long ago. I think someone was being dropped off in this neighborhood, and we often share taxis because it's cheaper and helps them make money, right? If they don't have to take dedicated trips for each person, it only takes a minute to wait for someone, so it helps out a lot. We came through here, and I remember thinking, wow, what an interesting area that I don't know at all, and now I know where it is. And I'm essentially directly south of my house in La Barrio, not too far east-west at all. I do live east of 8th, which was what we walked down on, but we've come east a bit as well, and we're walking towards some neat stuff here too. Not sure which way to go here to explore. So all that said, really the water here, the water situation is quite good. Oh, let's go left, and ooh, we got a lot of traffic. We're gonna wait for all this. Where'd they come from? And a little puppy. So that brings us to the current state of water in the United States, which is interesting to bring up because we get all this attention in Nicaragua for, oh, the water supply isn't that good. There's all these, pressure problems. I would hate to live there, blah, blah, blah. And growing up in New York, and then, we'll give it a second here. I don't know if you can hear me. That's Ruta 107. That's the people riding the route. And you can see on the side of some of these buses, they say where they're headed, and some do not. So I don't know how to always tell where they're going. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it is not. So growing up in New York and living in Dallas, Texas, most of the areas that I've lived throughout my life in the United States, we have really, really good water. So it's misleading to me growing up where I did to say there's a horse in here. We're gonna pop in and say hi. Hello, horsey. A weird little hiding space for him. But even growing up in New York, we were on well water all through my childhood. And when my father sold the farm just a year ago, still on well water. There's no municipal water there at all. So the idea of running out of water, needing to pump our water to have pressure, all of that was normal. And we never thought twice about it. And that same situation here is the things that everybody thinks is so awful. So it's actually not really fair because the same water supply in the United States would be given a free pass, and here it's, oh well, you don't have modern water like you would have in the US. So that's what I'm actually used to, and we had to treat it with water softening or whatever because the well water was not the best, but it was okay and certainly potable. This is a really neat whatever it is that I'm coming by. I have no idea what this business is. I assume it's a business. It could be a home. If this is a home, it is really well maintained. I'm not sure if this is one place or two. Oh no, it's definitely one. It's a similar style the whole way along. What a gorgeous place nestled in this small community. All right, so, but now in the United States and in the international news, we are constantly getting news about the water supply collapse in the United States. So today is a big one because today, Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of the state of Mississippi, its largest city, and a city famously located on a major waterway, has had a collapse of its water supply. And they now have not only a non-working water supply, buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Not only has their water supply collapsed, there, but they have now an indefinite lack of water supply into the future. They have no idea when they're going to get it back. They don't have pressure, and what water is in their pipes is unsafe. So a major U.S. city, not one of the biggest, but one that is not dissimilar from a Granada, Nicaragua in size, is now totally, completely, and utterly without potable water. They are pushing raw water straight from their reservoirs in a trickle through their pipes. That is insane. And with the amount of money and resources at every level that they have to deal with this, they were unable to foresee the issue coming. They claim they have consultants who are unable to do anything about it. They are now unsure how to fix it. It's absolutely crazy. And when I was 18, I moved to a city you may have heard of Flint, Michigan. And they are famous now for lead and other toxins in their water, for an impure water supply. And this has been going on for a few years in the United States as major news, as a relatively modern and large city is unable to maintain a working or safe water supply. So that's been a big deal that we often overlook. Now, of course, those are isolated incidents, and neither of them are really major cities. Neither of them are affecting giant populations on a US scale, but they are significant that even with all of the resources and know-how and money in the United States, water supplies are still a major problem. This is interesting that this is like a really modern outside wall, and clearly the inside was never finished. I can't make out what the deal is there, but interesting one way or another. So, but the even bigger thing in the United States now is the constant talk of the collapse of the Southwest water supply, the Colorado River, the Lake Mead, and everything else going on in the Southwest US, which they have known for decades was going to be a major problem, and now is in absolute collapse. And we hear in the news every couple days, even down here, just how bad the water is, how bad the situation is, and how completely disastrous it is going to be in the near future, as you know, the cities have to rip out their grass, they have to rethink their long-term survivability of their communities. Everything that they do is changing because they are not just running out of water now, but they are running out of water for all time, and completely without a plan for how they're going to move into the future. This is a level of water collapse. I'm just going to real quickly show to the left. This road only goes to here. There's a little house on the end, this little community, and we are heading back east again. No idea where we are now. This is a interesting little area. So that level of collapse, that is an area larger than all of Central America combined in the United States that is in total water collapse. And so while Americans may often look at Nicaragua and say, well, I'm worried about the water supply, or I don't know if it's this or that, or if it's going to meet my needs or expectations, when we look at the United States from here, we would be pretty upset if we had to live with the level of water problems that face so much of the United States. It's something like a quarter of all American citizens are currently living in a state of potential water emergency, and those who are not are mostly in areas like the Northeast, where there is a nearly unlimited fresh water supply, unlike anywhere on Earth, right, with the Great Lakes and that water system, which is where I grew up, right, in the Buffalo and Rochester, New York area. The amount of fresh water that we have is second to nowhere, right? It's absolutely the best availability of fresh water anywhere on the planet, and that is not because of resources or planning or anything else. It is simply that is where the majority of the world's fresh water is held, and that makes for a huge natural advantage in the United States, which of course is real, but that is not caused by the United States doing things well. It is simply because of where it is located. Nicaragua and other countries were in more of a normal situation, a much more normal situation where this requires planning and building and infrastructure and all those things. And with that, we have a generally better water supply than the US. Where the US does not have this world-class excess of natural fresh water that they have to do nothing to maintain, is the only place where reliably they have plenty of water. So in many ways, hola, ¿cómo está? I am quite some ways from my house, and that is my bottle collection boy who comes to the house and gets our empty bottles and such as a business. And I hear a band, and I see people recording and a bunch of people standing here, so I think a parade is about to come through. So as a completely impromptu thing, I am going to, oh, it might be the school inside the wall. I'm going to look. Interesting. Not sure why everybody's standing in the street, other than they're listening to the band practice. There's always a marching band practicing here in Nicaragua. When we lived in Granada, we had them on the street and they would play next to our house all the time. And I know there's a big parade in El Centro today, so I'm walking kind of fast trying to get past this for you, because I can't tell how loud it is for you, but it's very loud for me. All right, we are almost to the street. I know where we are at this point. We did a video in this neighborhood just the other day. Some of you may recognize it. These streets, though, have been modified since then, but we came up on this. This is where they were working on the road just the other day, and so you will see that in a second. So it really, I think in general, when you're looking at Nicaragua specifically, and a lot of countries like this, you have to be realistic. You have to look at what the water supply is like in places that have some of the best resources in the world for it, like the United States, and say, oh, that they're even in a similar category of water supply is a really impressive thing. And I think it's safe to say at this point that Nicaragua is on average doing far better. Everybody in Nicaragua has access to potable water and some amount of water pressure, and even the worst places are not too bad, and the good ones are really good. This is the school right here where, oh, I can get a shot of the name right here. We actually put this name on the show as we walked by the other day. Now we're going to head back to the 6th Street Bridge where we came over the other day, not today. So overall, I really think that water as a thing is something that Nicaragua can be really proud of as far as delivering water to its citizens. With so few natural resources, with so few economic resources, to have such a good, plentiful water capacity to make sure that its residents are consistently able to get safe drinking water, that it's not something you have to worry about, that it's extremely affordable and available, is really impressive. Now, of course, I'm walking over a dirty waterway. This is not one that we get drinking water from, right? And this is one of the things that we wish we could fix, is the trash in the rivers flowing through, and that's a place where, yes, the United States is generally doing much better, but water supply, really a strength in Nicaragua, something to be proud of. And when you're looking at moving to Nicaragua, yes, be ready. It's going to be a different water situation than you're used to in the United States. Yes, you may have to provide for some amount of your own pressurization of water. You may have to be prepared for a variance in pressure or availability throughout the day, but you don't have to worry that there's going to be treated potable water. You don't have to worry about Montezuma's revenge. You don't have to worry about parasites in the water. You don't have to worry about huge swaths of the country drying up and not having water at all. You have a really good general water supply that you're able to depend on. There's a full bus going by. Not really. It's just people in the back. When they're full, they're truly full. And instead of looking at water as something to be fearful of, think of the water here as something to be proud of, and something that's really going to be there for you, and a resource that you're going to be able to use all of the time, and know that it's there. Even out on the beach, we rarely have water supply issues, and when we do, you know, we're on wells, and there's no municipal supply. We're in a tiny little island zone, effectively, with really shallow water, and we have to deal with the ocean coming in, and even there the water is pretty good and pressurized almost all of the time. and everyone knows how to work around it. So that little bit of effort will, in general, give you a really, really good situation. And of course, we have really inexpensive bottled water delivery everywhere if that's something you want. And generally, we recommend it for a number of reasons. One, you don't have to worry about any pressurization or anything for drinking water. You can chill it or whatever, and you can control how much there is. Plus, it aids the economy in the water supply business, and I don't really know why they do it in general. And also you can, of course, put in water filtration and then you don't even have to worry about if there's lead in the water or other heavy metals and from old pipes. You don't have to worry about it at all, and you can have a water supply that does whatever it is you want all of the time. So you have those options, and they're very affordable. Remember, everything costs less. The water costs less, the electric costs less, the delivery costs less. When everything costs less, solving some of those problems and getting the conveniences that you want may not be a big issue. In the United States, you might be like, but I don't want to pay extra to have filtered water. I want it to be ready right away with this great pressure. Sure, but you're paying for that in taxes and in house costs and in other places. You're paying everywhere to make that happen. Here, you save money everywhere, and yes, if you want those specific luxuries, sure, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra to get them, just like we do with a water tank. But by doing so, we have a giant water tank, we have a good pump, we have a really great water situation, and the amount that it cost us is negligible. It's like for a house that we own, it's something like $1,000 to have a really, really good water supply for our extremely large space, far more than we ever realistically need. And that's just the cost of having a great convenience. If you're gonna live somewhere, $1,000 one-time fee is nothing to give you a luxury that matters to you, considering just how cheap a place is going to be. And this is for a lot of people and a lot of capacity. Easily you could be putting in a tank for half that money and getting a lot of the same benefits, if not all. And just like we do at the hotel, we put in big tanks just so that we know that we don't have to worry about things, even though the water pressure is very reliable. Thanks for joining me. Remember to like and subscribe. Comments below. What are your experiences with water in Nicaragua and other places? Let me know. And boy, it's been a nice walk. It's kind of cool out today because we have some clouds. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you tomorrow.